weekend. We'll be talking to him about that. We'll also talk about the Storm's tough loss last Saturday to the Arizona Rattlers, 63-50. Then also on the show, we'll be talking to a couple of the Storm players, as we're going to be talking with wide receiver Kent Shelby and defensive lineman Malcolm Goins. Then in our final segment with the coach, we'll talk about the game this week down in Moline, Illinois, the first time we've made the trip down there, as the Storm takes on the Quad City Steamwheelers. And we're going to be talking about them a little bit more in the second segment, also the fourth segment, or the last segment, but we're going to be talking about them in the second segment with Coach Riggs. A very interesting ball game they had with the Iowa Barnstormers. Or check that, not the Steamwheelers, but we'll talk about the Tucson Sugar Skulls, but also we'll be talking about the Steamwheelers in their game. Their game was also interesting, but in a different way. And then we're going to give some tickets away. After our conversations with a couple of players, we'll be having a 4-ticket giveaway for the next home game coming up on May 11th, as the Sioux Falls Storm are going to be taking on the Green Bay Blizzard, and that's going to be an interesting game coming up for the Sioux Falls Storm, and you want to get your tickets for that. We'll be giving those away courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. Now, you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, sponsored each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers. That's Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Coming up next, he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs, and you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
Rich. Waiting to see a doctor?
What's taking so long?
It can take a while.
I don't have time for this.
Or longer than a while.
We've been here 2 hours.
Forever.
Hello?
What would you say if there was another option?
Finally.
Yes.
It's about time.
We're inclined to agree. It's about time for the best patient care. Sioux Falls Urgent Care.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And each week our opening interview with Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs is brought to you by the great folks over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Storm sponsors since day one. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is. Baked fresh, sliced fresh, delivered fresh. That's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, number one in delivery sales for the entire Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. And, Coach, we're going to be talking about the games around the IFL, first of all, and there were some interesting ones, weren't there?
There was, yeah. It seems like every week there is.
Well, Friday night, this one wasn't really too much of a surprise, but Nebraska got the win over Cedar Rapids 66-42, and Nebraska improves to 5-4 on the year, which puts them right in the hunt for a playoff spot. That was a big win for Nebraska.
Well, and I think you saw two teams kind of going in different directions. Nebraska is starting to play pretty good football, and Cedar just seems to be falling apart here lately.
Now, on Saturday, the other game that went on, the Storm was playing, but the other game that went on was Iowa was at Tucson, and I wanted to just check with you about this, but Iowa scored on a last-second touchdown run by their quarterback, DeQuan Neal. Now, the Tucson television station KGUN Channel 9 is reporting that the IFL is admitting the last play should not have counted as holding occurred during the play. And the head coach, Marcus Coleman, challenged the play, but was told you could not challenge a holding call, although in the record book and the rule book, it states that when it is a scoring play, you can challenge it. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't. And to my knowledge, you cannot challenge a hold. A hold that was last year.
Uh-huh.
This year, a hold is not, that's like, can we challenge pass interference? No, you can't. You can't challenge a hold, and I've been told nothing different from that. And and I believe that's the way it should stay too.
Okay.
I mean, that was one of our biggest issues. Hey, it was a great move by the Sioux Falls Storm in the championship game to throw a flag on a field goal try, because just about every field goal try there's a hold, and we were able to get one that gave us a chance to move them back to miss that kick or to block it. And that was one of the big issues that we talked about. These PI, these holds, these are questionable things. Are we going to extend the game for these, or try to make it a little more catered like the NFL product? And that's what we had decided. So if it is, that's total news to me.
Okay. Well, they said that the only reason that you can challenge a hold if it occurs on a scoring play. And that's the only thing that this television station is reporting. And I was trying to find out more information. I could not find anywhere else, so that's why I quoted them as the ones that were giving this information out. Whether or not it happened or not, I do not know. But it was a game that Tucson had the opportunity with an upset over Iowa. But in 7 seconds left in the game, they gave up the touchdown, and Iowa gets the win, and they're 7-1 on the year.
Yeah, from what I understood, they led the entire game and up by multiple scores at some points during the game, but couldn't finish it out. And, I'm sure Marcus has just got to be, extremely frustrated, that being his old team, too.
Right, yes.
And having a chance to get that win and try to stay in the playoff hunt. But, they're a talented team. They've got some talent on that team, and, at some point they are going to put it together.
And Tucson is now 3-5 on the year. They're tied with Quad City for 6th place right now as far as the playoffs are concerned. The top 6 teams get into the IFL playoffs, and Quad Cities and Tucson are tied at this point. Nebraska is at 5-4. Green Bay's at 5-3. But to me, one of the surprises of the weekend was Bismarck hosted Quad City, and Bismarck won that game 51-48. That's their second win of the season.
Yeah, I watched that game, and Bismarck did a nice job with their play calling. The quarterback, who's played awful against us, the taller one, he played really well. He did a nice job controlling the game and not throwing, those bad balls that you saw against us, where you're just throwing it to throw it. And he did a much better job of controlling. When the lanes opened, he took off and ran. And then their defense, which really couldn't stop Quad Cities, it really was just Quad Cities stopping themselves.
Oh, really?
They were able to create some fumbles and take advantage of those opportunities to stay up on Quad Cities. I mean, once they got up, then it pretty much was who had the ball last was going to win the game, and that's essentially what happened. Quad City scored with 16 seconds, and then Bismarck was able to throw a ball in the end zone and catch it and get up by 3 with, I think, 4 seconds left.
Oh, my. But a big win for Bismarck as they get their second win of the season. And coming up this week, it's going to be the games around the IFL. Nebraska is going to be at Arizona. Bismarck's going to be at Green Bay. Iowa will be hosting Cedar Rapids. And Quad City's going to be host for the Sioux Falls Storm. We'll talk about that game in our final segment. And then San Diego is playing at Tucson. And the thing about having Quad Cities coming off a loss to Bismarck, they're going to try to load up for Bear coming this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, you're right, Rich. They get a good crowd at their games. They're coming off a blowout win against Tucson 2 weeks ago. And then they go up to Bismarck and suffer this tough loss. So, yeah, you're exactly right. They're going to come in fired up. They still have the quarterback. They still have 2 really good receivers. And they have some athletes. And that's what's scary. It seemed like they just kind of were in a funk, and they just couldn't quite get out of it. They could do enough to, hey, we're better than you. We'll catch up to you, and eventually you'll fall apart. Well, Bismarck didn't fall apart. They stayed with it, stayed to their game plan, and was able to get the win.
And I got to give Bismarck credit because they could have folded the tents a 3 games ago. But they're still trying to work things out. As it is right now, they're just a game behind Tucson and Quad City. So if they could snag a couple more wins somewhere, that puts them into the hunt for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be something? It's not something you would anticipate, but I think you're seeing some teams improve and some teams kind of struggle to find an identity. And so, yeah, it keeps everyone in the race, which I think is great for the league.
Right now, the league standings are Arizona 8-0, Iowa 7-1, Sioux Falls with a loss has fallen to 6-2 in third place, and then Green Bay is a game behind the Storm, 5-3. Then Nebraska's 5-4, and that rounds out the top end of the IFL standings. Well, Coach, when we come back, we'll talk about the Arizona game, and we'll be back right after this.
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games, and more games, plus food. Great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservations and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And the weekly game recap is brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun. Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing party hosts. And the next viewing party is this Saturday as the Storm travels to Quad City in Moline, Illinois, to take on the Steamwheelers. Kickoff is at 7:05. You can hear that game right here on KWSN. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, Arizona comes to town, and they leave town with a win, 63-50. What's your overall assessment of the game and your team's performance?
Well, disappointment. It's one, Rich, where watching the film, you feel like we have to play flawless football right now offensively to be able to go to battle with Arizona, because defensively we were just so back on our heels and it couldn't make plays. In fact, didn't even take anything away. I mean, Ziemba looked like he was playing 7-on-7, and we didn't have enough defenders out there to even cover. So when we had, first drive of the game looks good, we make a bad play call, put someone in a bad situation, and we end up having to resort to a field goal, and it gets blocked, which is like a turnover. And then we had the two turnovers, and the two turnovers were just pure miscommunication. And you can't have those mistakes against a defense that is predicated all on pressure. And so when we put ourselves behind like that and not having an experienced defense that could go out there and answer the call and get us a stop against an offense that's playing very well, we were in a lot of trouble, and we just couldn't find a way to dig ourselves out.
Preparing for this interview is kind of like, preparing for a post-mortem. You just don't know quite how to go with things because you don't know what you're going to find or hear about it. But
come on, Rich. Just lay it all on me. Give it to me.
All right, then. Three things came to mind as far as this game was concerned, as I watched it and thinking back on it. The three things that I wanted to talk to you about were turnovers, field position, and third down. And you talked about the turnovers. And Arizona wound up getting 24 points, if I figured it out right. There was 3 turnovers in the first half. There was the muffed onside kick, and there was the blocked field goal. They resulted in a touchdown eventually. 24 points, boy, that's a tough row to hoe to try to come out of that hole, isn't it?
It is. And you look at, I felt like we can score on them. There's no doubt we can score. Even when we got out of our game plan and had to just start throwing all the time, we still could attack them. But you can't make mistakes, and that's what they thrive on, and they pressure you into those mistakes too. But the 2 mistakes we had, one was, we for some reason we had 2 different play calls in. The guys were running 2 different plays, and it was just miscommunication between Lorenzo and our receivers, and so we had an easy fumble. I mean, we pretty much just pitched them the ball. And then the second one was, Zoe has very small opportunity to throw. About 2 seconds is what he has to make a decision to throw. And Kent Shelby breaks his route, and with his big body, he's got to stay on his track. And because Zoe has to throw, he's got to let it go. And Kent decided to break and then try to go around the DB. He's got to, with that big body, run through that spot. And when he went around, the ball just goes right to the DB. And, yeah, I'm sure everyone in the stands was like, what a terrible throw, what an awful decision. But it wasn't. And really, Lorenzo didn't play bad. I mean, he had a pretty good game in a very difficult situation. Because when you get behind against them and you have to pass every down, they really come after you, and they put a lot of pressure on you. But what was frustrating was we never got them out of their game plan. We never, I mean, Ziemba looked so comfortable back there, and he was throwing the wide-open guys. And we just didn't do a good job of disrupting or taking anything away.
Lorenzo Brown for the night, 13 of 23, 1 interception, 208 yards, 5 touchdowns, long of 34. Most of the times when you have stats like that, you get a W, don't you?
You do, and you know what? He was really good with the deep balls. I mean, he threw the home runs, and we knew we talked about we're going to have to try these, and for the most part, we were really good. But the turnovers just put you in a situation where you're trying to play catch up all the time, and we did it to ourselves. I don't feel like those were ones where they really caused those for us, and that seems to be our forte against them. You know, when we went out there the second half, I mean, we started to fumble the ball, and then when we got behind, we started throwing some picks. But, you know, they come out, they play really good football. Arizona does. They take care of the ball, and they play solid defense. And if you beat them, they come back out, and they get after you again. And we're not doing that right now. We're going out trying to wait till the other team does something, and then we're trying to react. And it's really showing against the better teams.
Turnovers was one thing we talked about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was field position for the night. You averaged about 15 yards on a kick return, starting out to about your 14-yard line, other than a couple of them that got to the 24 of Arizona. So starting back in your end of the field just kind of changes things as far as how you could get your offense in rhythm, doesn't it?
It does. The one thing, you know, early on we were able to make them pay, though, even with more field, with some home runs. And they started changing their defense a little bit early in series and drives. But you're right. They do a good job. They're well coached. Jeff Jardigan does their special teams, and he does an excellent job on his kickoff team. His field goal block team is really – those guys come hard every single time. And you know, we're not at that level right now. It's those types of things that are catching up to us. And you're right, having to go a full field, even on a 50-yard field, against a really aggressive defense, it just wears you down. I mean, it just wears you down. It's more opportunities for them to hit you. It's more opportunities for you to make a mistake against that pressuring defense. And eventually, it catches up to you.
Third downs, 1 of 6 on the night, 1 of 2 fourth down. Tell us about your thoughts on the third down the other night.
Well, the one thing it tells me is we weren't in third down very much. I mean, we were capitalizing with big plays, because if you're only 1 of 6 or 1 of 7, that's not very many opportunities. And, you know, we weren't good. The other thing, it means what happens, Rich, is when you're going for home runs, you're either hitting them or you're not, and then you're in long situations. And when you're in long situations, meaning 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, your chances of getting those are slim. They're tough. And, you know, some were our own fault. You know, we had just ignorant, critical error penalties that put us in bad spots. And some were just long situations against a really tough defense. It is difficult. And sometimes we played it for 2 downs, and, you know, that's why the 1 of 2. But it's something you have to try to stay away from, but sometimes you're going to end up in those long situations because you go for the home run.
Now the positives. What did you take out of this game that you can build on for the next games coming up?
Not a lot.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's one definite bright spot, at maybe two even. Kent Shelby, I thought, really stepped up. He really showed, hey, I'm the guy you guys thought I was. I'm a playmaker, and I can play. And he's never really had a chance to show his talents in the games. And I thought this one he did, and I thought he played really well. I thought Trayvon Chapman came in and gave us a spark late in the game. He did a nice job there, and I thought Damian Ford, made them pay with some home runs. So the receiving core, I guess, would be one bright spot. After that, I think our kickoff team was okay, but it's tough, Rich. I thought our O-line was pretty good. When they knew we're throwing every down, it's difficult, but there wasn't a lot, Rich, and there's no reason to try to sugarcoat it that there was. Our fans see it. They know, and our players know. And it's an eye-opener for us, and it's something telling us that, yeah, you can play with these guys for 3 quarters, but right now we can't for 4, and we've got to get to that point.
The one positive that I look at is the fact that you play Arizona twice in the regular season. But the way I kind of look at things, especially in the league we're in right now, the IFL, is the fact that you work all season to build your team because you want to have the best team ready come playoff time. And in essence, the season starts over at that particular time so that you take what's happened during the course of the year, the wins and the losses, and then you can build on that and adjust accordingly to prepare yourself, because if you're going to get in the playoffs, there's going to be a chance of playing this team again.
For sure, yeah, and now we know it's going to be down there. I mean,
Yeah.
They're not going to lose a regular season game.
No.
Nebraska goes to their place, and after Nebraska, it's Cedar, Tucson, and San Diego. So you just don't expect them to lose a game. The bigger issue for us right now, Rich, is personnel. And, you lose Matt McCoy, you lose DeAndre Scott. You just disrupt any type of continuity in our defensive backfield. I thought that really showed itself in this game. We had to sit Rick Rump because of violation of team issues, conduct policy, and so Joe Blunt, who practiced one time with us, is in there, and I thought we definitely looked like an inexperienced defensive backfield, and we've got to get that figured out. We've got to get that to where we have a group of guys back there that trust each other and play together.
Well, Coach, you said it well, and we'll talk about the game coming up, the Steam Wheelers, in our final segment, but thanks for the great comments, Coach.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coming up next, we'll be talking with one of the Storm players, Kent Shelby. Coach just talked about him. Coming up next on the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN.
Hi, I'm Mike Schultz.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And the player interview is brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And when we go to break, we'll have take your third call, 336-1234. Free tickets for the game coming up on May 11th when the Storm hosts the Green Bay Blizzards. He is a wide receiver with the Sioux Falls Storm, wears number 19. He is Kent Shelby. Kent, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. And I want to find a little bit about you and let the fans know a little bit about you. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up from New Orleans, Louisiana. I've always lived there my whole life, even after Hurricane Katrina. I stayed a semester in Houston, and I had to come right back to New Orleans because, New Orleans, that's where I'm from. So, I got to get back to my city.
Well, tell me a little bit about what it was like to get through that hurricane and how all of that transpired as far as trying to rebuild the city and people trying to rebuild their lives.
Well, I mean, it was tough because you're asking a lot of people who aren't familiar with staying in a different city. So, and also I had family members as well of people who stayed, who didn't get a chance to evacuate. So, it was pretty tough for a lot of people, including myself. But to see the city shining the way it is right now, it's truly a blessing.
Well, that's the thing about it. When you persevere through difficult times, I think everybody gets stronger, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Now, where'd you go to college and play college football?
I went to McNeese State University, Southland Conference, D1AA.
Now, where is McNeese State?
It is in Lake Charles, Louisiana, 3 hours away from New Orleans and 2 hours from Houston.
Oh, okay. I had no idea where it was. I'm, being from up in the Northwest or North Central states up here, we don't have a lot of knowledge of stuff past Des Moines, Iowa. So
Oh, yeah, I got you. Well, it's slowly becoming a good city because the Rockets, Houston Rockets owner, he actually owns a casino that's built in Lake Charles, and he be having his players come over, and also we just built a new arena, and they actually practiced in our new arena this past season.
Oh, really?
So
now,
yes.
Every year I hand out a form for the players to fill out when they first come into camp. And one of the things that you had put down on that was why you came to play with the Storm. It said you did not have an opportunity last year. What did that mean?
Basically, I had signed an undrafted free agent deal with the LA Chargers. I want to say April 28, 2018, and I ended up having an injury that came up that I had in my senior year on senior night, and I never really got it taken care of because of the draft process. So I didn't pass that physical to make it out there. So I didn't really get my true opportunity out there to show those guys what I can do.
Well, one of the things we just talked to Coach Riggs, and we're talking with Kent Shelby, wide receiver with the Sioux Falls Storm, and he really praised you about what you were able to bring to the game last Saturday night. And it was the first time you'd really had a chance to showcase your talents. What's it been like for you adjusting to the indoor game, and how can you use your talents best inside the wall?
Yeah, I have nightmares every single night thinking about this game. Not in a bad way, in a good way, because I'm just trying to figure it out. What can I do to switch to make outside just like inside? And I noticed that it's the motion that we have to come off, and once you come off the motion and you get back to the line of scrimmage, now it's adapting to my length of how many yards I have to get on a certain route. So basically, that's how I can convert outside football to inside. But, it's still a work in progress, and I knew that I wasn't going to come in right away and figure things out. But, I'm doing as much as I can to help the team out. And last Saturday was my first time I actually felt like I was playing football again. I'm looking forward to doing that the rest of the year.
Well, absolutely, because you have great talent, great size, 6'3", 211 pounds, nice size, wide receiver. But you find out one thing rather quickly: the wall is hard, isn't it?
Yes, that wall is is another defender out there. I don't want no problems with him no more. I'm not making him mad anymore.
Well, Kent, what do you like to do away from football?
Honestly, I'm more of a activity kind of person. So obviously, as football player, I like to get rest. But I like to do play video games. I like to go bowling. Different things like that, swimming. So anything I can do to help my body out, but also make it fun in a way.
What kind of a bowler are you? Do you have an average?
I I used to be a good bowler when I was young. I used to do I used to be in a bowling tournament. I actually won that bowling tournament when I was 8. I had won like a trophy, my own personal bowling ball. But ever since then, I don't know what happened. I don't think I'm that good no more.
Well, at least you know your limitations and your expectations, and our expectations are high for what you can do for the Sioux Falls Storm, and we just appreciate your attitude and the way that you do things, and you're a lot of fun to watch play football.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
And thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show. That's Kent Shelby, number 19 with the Sioux Falls Storm. Coming up next, we'll be talking to a defensive lineman, Malcolm Goins, and get a whole different perspective of indoor football from him. And you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here at 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN, and we'll take your third call for 4 free tickets.
First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking gives you the freedom to bank anywhere with online account opening, instant issue debit cards, and no unpleasant surprises. Apply online or at any branch location. First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking, member FDIC.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And another segment where after we go to break, we'll be taking your third call, 336-1230, 4 free tickets for the game coming up on May 11th. And the phone has been ringing off the hook. And this is all brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And joining us now via the fan line is the defensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm, Malcolm Goins. Malcolm, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
Hi, how you doing? How you doing, Kurtiss? Thank you for having me.
Well, where did you grow up and where did you play college football, Malcolm?
I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I played for Austin Peay State University.
Now, where is that located? I'm not familiar with that university.
It's in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's about 45 minutes west of Nashville.
Oh, okay. So tell me a little bit about your career. Were you always a defensive lineman?
Yes. Besides me playing a little tight end in high school, I've been defensive lineman majority of my life.
Now, coming to Sioux Falls, you had some indoor football league experience, didn't you? Where did you play prior to coming to Sioux Falls?
I played in Wichita Falls with the Nighthawks. They used to be in this league, but they got discontinued.
Tell us about your time down in Texas, because we played you down there, and I remember calling your name a lot when we were down in Texas.
Yes. We actually broke the home streak for the Sioux Falls on that team did.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. It was pretty fun. That was my first year with Wichita Falls and my first year playing indoor. So I had a nice time down there.
I'd have to believe that the bus ride back to Wichita Falls, which is about 13 hours, you guys had a pretty good time celebrating the fact that you defeated the Storm and broke the home winning streak of 60 games.
Yes. Well, that was back then. Now I'm with the Storm trying to build a new one.
That's exactly. Well, tell us what's the difference playing for the Storm versus playing for Wichita Falls.
When I played for Wichita Falls, the Storm had our number. You know, we looked up to the Storm. We wanted to beat the Storm or beat the Storm, I would say. But being with the Storm now, just seeing the organization, how great things are around, how I see why the home winning streak was so long and see why they're such a winning program.
Well, right now in the season, you have 14 tackles, you have a broken pass, you have a block kick, and you got your first sack of the season against Arizona. Tell us about that.
With Arizona, you know, they're a very tough team. So I really look forward to playing those caliber of teams. And luckily, I got him with a good bull rush, and the quarterback was right there in my lap.
I got to also ask you about that block kick you had up in Bismarck that you ran for the 2-point conversion. That had to be a defensive lineman's dream.
Yes, it was just on the perfect bounce, and I caught it right in stride, and I just tried to show my wheels on film.
Well, the thing about it is when you're not used to running the ball, I imagine going through your mind is, please don't make me trip on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, that would be very bad. That's a D lineman nightmare.
That's about right. Well, I tell you what, you're a good-sized defensive lineman, 6'3", 295. You move very well. What have you learned over the couple years that you've been playing in this league that you didn't really know when you came into the league about how to play that defensive end spot?
Really, it's just the ball comes out a lot faster. So instead of, premeditated moves, or getting to that second or third pass rush move, you really don't have too much time in the indoor. It's a lot of adjusting as far as being shoulder to shoulder or as knee to nose being head up. It's like, you got to expand, your playbook of moves that you have.
Well, I think that you'll be learning a lot from the defensive line coach, Corey Johnson, because he was about the best there ever was in the IFL as far as bull rushing, and he'll teach you a lot.
Yes, he certainly has taught me so much as of right now. Like, everything he says, I just soak it up because he was probably, the greatest nose ever to come through the IFL.
Well, Malcolm,
I couldn't come.
Great to have you on the Kurtiss Riggs Show. My best to you the rest of the season.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rich. You have a good one, man.
Okay, very good. Malcolm Goins, defensive lineman, wears number 99 for the Sioux Falls Storm. Third call, 336-1230, 4 free tickets. And coming up next, we'll be talking to the head coach again, Kurtiss Riggs, right here on his show on KWSN.
When people
The Winklers thought they were prepared for the summer heat, but their perspiration would prove otherwise. The family had grown accustomed to the AC breaking down and improvising. But the not-so-silent hum of their makeshift AC was wearing thin. That's when it became clear it was time to call the service guys. Waterbury, we are service.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Ross.
And every week, our game preview is brought to you by Good Sense Deli, Fresh Subs, 917 South Cliff Avenue, working to further enhance deliveries in Sioux Falls by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery service so you get your subs baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli, Fresh Subs, man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. It's the Quad City Steamwheelers. They're going to be fighting mad after that loss up to Bismarck, and the Storm get to travel down to Moline, Illinois for the first time to face them. Tell us about what you know about the Steamwheelers after we had played them one time and what you've seen from them since that time. Well,
I still feel like they have two of the best receivers in the league and a very good quarterback too. They've got a big physical offensive line, and it seems like they can kind of pick and choose when they want to go to these two receivers, and they just dominate everyone they go against.
Go ahead.
And so we couldn't stop them the first time we played them, and we got to find a way this time because we can't let them just be able to do anything they want.
And those receivers are Rudd and Pedroza. They're number 2 and number 3 in the IFL in receptions per game, receiving yards per game, 65. And Pedroza is number 1 in touchdowns with 17, and Rudd is number 3 at 12. And the guy pitching it to him is E.J. Hilliard, and he leads the IFL in yards per game at 183 yards. He also has 25 passing touchdowns. So those are, that's really the makeup of their offense, and they have been successful up until this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they had some critical turnovers against Bismarck. They had some fumbles that were costly. And Bismarck did a nice job of staying close and then staying ahead, and then it kind of came down to who had the ball last. It seemed like when Quad Cities wanted to, they would throw a deep ball to Pedroza or Rudd, and Bismarck couldn't stop them. But then they also couldn't stop Bismarck. Bismarck did a nice job moving the ball down to get some scores.
Defensively, their linebacker, Robert Jones, he's number 4 in the IFL with sacks. Tell us a little bit about the defense of the Steamwheelers.
Well, Jones is very active. I mean, he's really a linebacker playing DN, and he plays it that way. He'll guess at times, tries to use his speed. He'll really try to fly upfield to hit the quarterback. And then they've got some very aggressive defensive backs. I mean, they'll really latch onto you and try to grab you, and you've got to be able to fight through that when you're trying to attack downfield.
Both teams are coming into this game with a tough loss. How much is that in the mind going into the game, or does that just get washed out and you concentrate on the game at hand?
Well, I think for us it's washed out in the game at hand, and I think there's one key reason that it's still in their mind and it's washed out, because we'll be going into their place.
Uh-huh.
And so they are going to be, just like you said earlier, they're going to be fired up coming off a bad loss against a team they should beat, and now they're in front of their own home fans. And they draw well. They get a good crowd at their place. And so we'll be more absorbed by the new environment, the new team, and they'll be like, we got to get back on track in front of our fans, which just will add more stress to our game.
What time's the bus leave on Friday?
We're going to leave at 1:07, Rich.
Long bus trip all the way across Kinney Quarter, across the state of Iowa. Going to see lots of farm ground.
Never been there. Be a new trip for me.
Yeah, me too. Been through there, but interesting town. We'll find out all about it when we get down there, Coach.
All right, I look forward to it, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurtiss Riggs, the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. When we come back, we'll wrap up the Kurtiss Riggs Show for another week, but thanks for listening. But after we go off the air, then we'll take third caller for 336-1230 for 4 free tickets at that point, not this break. We'll be back right after this. This is
Ladies,
KWSN.
I'm going to let you in.
Is it time to sell your equipment? Sell it on AuctionTime.com, the best resource for selling farm equipment, construction equipment, trucks, and trailers. Powered by Tractor House, Machinery Trader, and Truck Paper, Auction Time brings you the largest audience of bidders from across the country and around the world. Get more for your equipment. See our current listings at AuctionTime.com or call 800-334-7443.
You're listening to The Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And welcome back for our final segment of The Kurtiss Riggs Show. I always appreciate everybody that's been listening to The Kurtiss Riggs Show over these many years that we've been doing this, 10 years that we've had The Kurtiss Riggs Show with Coach Riggs, and 20 years for me doing Storm football. It has been a hoot and a half. For me, there's no doubt about it. Now, this week, the Storm travels to Moline, Illinois to take on the Quad City Steamwheelers, and you can hear that game starting with our pregame show at 6:45 right here on 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio KWSN. Now, the Kurtiss Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls. And also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Now, when we go off the air, we'll have the Storm game ticket giveaway brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better, and we'll take the third call at 336-1230. 4 free tickets for the next Storm home game on May 11th when the Storm hosts the Green Bay Blizzard. Now, I just want to spend a moment and just thank our sponsors, because they're the ones that make this broadcast possible. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, great sponsors. They've been with the Storm since day one. And also the Eastway Bowl, they're going to be having a viewing party for the game this week. Stop on out there. It's always a great time. That's going to be in the Eastway Sports Lounge. Then, of course, Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. Great sponsors. They sponsor the ticket giveaway. And also our main sponsors, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and the Orthopedic Institute. I want to thank you to the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs, along with our guests, Kent Shelby and Malcolm Goins. Thank you to John Michaels, our KWSN studio producer and engineer and rock and roll Hall of Famer in South Dakota. He always makes the Kurtiss Riggs Show run so smoothly. Want to wish all of you a great evening, and we'll talk to you again next week. And you've been listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Same station that the Storm game will be on this Saturday, starting at 6:45. We'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.